And so how do you integrate spiritual practices with evidence-based approaches to mental health?
Yeah, and I really resonate with the point you made, and I think for me, it also just comes down to some level of humility, because there are phenomena that are happening literally moment to moment that we have no idea how it's being done, right? I mean, if you look at our body, for instance, 50 to 100 trillion cells, and within those cells, 50 to 100 trillion, roughly, atoms, and they're all synchronized. They're all moving in a concert. I mean, the complexity is unbelievable, I mean, you can't even in your mind really rationalize a billion, let alone 100 trillion times 2,
Yeah.
And then we very casually will sit here and take for granted the fact that we're on a big rock spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, rotating around this big, huge ball of fire, hurtling through this nothingness, right? And just say, oh, we understand everything. And so I think for me, having a math physics background, it was coming to the conclusion that there are things that are, like you said, happening that are so far beyond our ability to rationalize that we should be open to the idea of, there being some things that we, can't draw on the chalkboard, for example, And then how to kind of integrate that? Well, I think once you've maybe convinced yourself enough that you should have some humility around the way things work, I think things start to open up. And there's a physicist whose work I really like. His name's Nassim Haramein, and he gives this talk that he's given all over the world, and he talks about this idea of this field, and it has information, it has energy in it, and it's really technical. And then at the end, he asks the audience for questions, and in one of them, one of the guests says, "Well, so what? Okay, so what?" He's like, "The so what is, there's a voice, there is an intuition in us, there is something that is different than our rational mind that we can tune into if we have the humility to believe that it's there, and we practice trying to be still enough to hear it, right?" So I think for me personally, and I think for many, one of the foundational practices is meditation. And we don't understand all the mechanics of it, but something very significant happens when you practice being in the present moment more. And we can talk more detail about it, but I mean, you can measure this on an fMRI, with a brain scan. When your presence is in the now versus where for most people it is almost all day, telling stories, judging, making sense of, reflecting, there's something really special that happens when you spend more time in that nowness that we're just now beginning to begin to understand.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into that a lot deeper with you today. And so you talk in terms of mindfulness, meditation. You're coming out of a history where you battled with depression and PTSD. What sparked your interest